Okay, so I've been playing guitar for 22 years.
Okay.
And I've been, the whole time, been trying my best to play. You know, just trying my best to be the best player that I can be.
Okay.
So we have, this is my bass player. We play several times a month, and our shows are maybe 3.5, 4 hours long.
How many sets? Like 3 sets?
Yeah, like 3 sets. And one thing that I have to deal with, and I'm sure everybody has to deal with, is, you know, you put all this time into practicing and trying to be as good as you can be, perfection basically. We try to be that, and then still, you know, I always make mistakes every single night. I've never had a night where I've made absolutely zero. I've had good nights where I played well, but the mistakes get to me. And I was just wondering, do they bother you too? Whenever
I think so, because, you know, a lot of times I've gotten to the point where nobody can tell if it's a mistake anymore, you know, because it's just in that zone. You know, I set the bar high, but one of the things that I've kind of gotten over is paralysis through analysis. If you strive for perfection, you're never going to get it. So then you're paralyzed by the fear that you can't, and I'm not saying you're afraid to do that, but I think you just have to say, is good enough? And I don't know how do you practice before a show?
Sometimes I don't practice. I just make sure during the first few songs to not go too crazy and kind of warm up. And then sometimes I'll just go through some patterns and warm up. If I warm up, of course, I play a lot better. So
there's 2 schools of thought. Now, this one friend of mine in the band I cannot name that plays in front of 15,000 people regularly says because they're playing a lot of hit songs, and these songs aren't super challenging as far as technical playing, he doesn't really ever warm up to playing the songs. Okay, fair enough. One school of thought. It's not my school of thought, though. And I told him, you know, I'm not talking behind his back. We were just discussing this the other day when I was in California. My school of thought is the Michael Schenker, Mark Tremonti school of thought. When I practice, now you've got 3 sets, and I used to be in a really popular cover band. When we were kids, we would do 3 to 4 45s or 5 40s. Okay, so we had a lot of material to cover, but I would go over the songs. I would actually, before I played, I went over the songs I was going to play that night, and I found it really limited the mistakes because you're focusing in on what you've got to do. And see, so maybe what would probably help you be mistake list. For example, are you familiar with the band The Carpenters? Remember Karen Carpenter? Like they long to be close to you. You know, this really, you know, it's all old stuff. But I bring her up for a reason. I worked with a producer when I first came on in music named Tom Worman, who did like Cheap Trick, I Want You to, Motley Crue, Poison, Every Rose Has a Thorn. And he pointed out the Carpenters. And I don't have any Carpenters, you know, album. I never did. But Karen Carpenter died of anorexia. Now, this is the point. Worman told me, the producer, he said she had to have things perfect. No mistakes in the whole night. She flipped out. If the band or herself, and it drove her to an eating disorder, okay? And I'm not saying one half, but she was like this compulsive individual. I think the best way to limit mistakes is to focus in on exactly what you want to play. And maybe not play every song, but let's say you're making a mistake on a part of a song. Make a note of that, you know, and just because the idea is you're never gonna be perfect. The greatest musicians that ever lived, yeah, you can play it pretty flawlessly, but I bet you if you asked them, they would go, man, that one part, I wish I could have played better. No matter how perfect it is, it's never gonna be good enough for someone who strives for perfection. You know, I mean, I listen to myself and I think sometimes on records, man, I wish I'd have done that part better, and nobody ever heard it but me. You know, so, or live, you know, I might do something and I say, well, I wish I could have done it better, but everybody, oh, that sounded great. What I do is I warm up and I focus on parts of the songs I'm going to play that evening. And it's like laser focusing. And that probably would help you limit mistakes. Go over your set list. Like look at, say, 3 or 4 sets or whatever you want to do. And say, well, okay, well, these songs, just take parts of songs and just refresh your memory on it. And it gets your brain like into what you're going to do at the given moment. So I hope that helps. But I think that's it's two schools of thought. Mark Tremonti from Creed and Alter Bridge, that's what he does. I've sat backstage with him a bunch of times. He works on what he's going to play that evening. Michael Schenker, if you've ever seen him from UFO, and he's older now, man, he just plays perfect. It's not the most technical thing. It's not going to be Sean Lane or one of my songs, but what he plays is awesome. It just sounds so good, and it's really spot on, as the British would say. It's just dialed in, and it's because he will practice the whole set. I mean, he's like compulsive like that. So I hope that helped. Is there any other questions?
So, I have one small question. It's kind of out there, but I'm going to school for music.
Can I ask how old you are?
Yes, I'm 24.
Okay, cool, great age.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm a senior at Belmont University. And I had a question. When you were in school learning about music theory, what ways did you come up with to make it more digestible? Because as far as applying it to the
okay, I started in music theory as a sophomore in high school. Okay, so and what I did was I went out for the jazz band in my school. We had 3,500 kids, and everybody, like so many musicians there. You know how many people auditioned for the jazz band? Yeah. Me. Okay, theory, the hardest thing about music theory is that it's so simple. And it's like picture someone never knowing what a wheel is. Like, and we all know what it is. It's simple. Try to describe that to somebody who's never, dude, but it's like round and like you use it. What? The thing that can make it digestible is what I showed on guitar. Here's how I showed guitar, the scales on guitar, and this maybe will help. There are only 5 positions. See, here's how I break down the neck. I break it down, when you have 4 note groupings like this, that's closed position. Anything after 4 is open. Okay, so most of these are closed position. A lot of guitar players that play really good traverse the fretboard without knowing actually all the notes in each scale. Now again, this is the foundation stuff, and this is like, see, that would take care of G major. Now it doesn't sound like G major, we're just using all the notes in this position. Pattern 2, pattern 3, pattern 4. You can use that, but I don't. And then pattern 5. That is every single note in G major on the entire fretboard. Every single one. Okay, see, a lot of times people will say, well, I play it like this. It's a great way to play it, but that's 2 patterns. That's 2 of the 5 patterns. There are only 5. And see, what they're doing is they're doing hybrids of 1 and 2. The reason I'm saying that is because the hardest thing to understand is music. It's like what they call the number system here in Nashville. If I say 1, 6, 2, 5, any key, it doesn't matter. I know what it is. Because it's simple stuff. Okay, secondary dominant, a 5 of 5. If I said I'm in the key of G and I play E7. That's a secondary dominant of what? A. Okay, like, and you go like, it's how you modulate. What I did with showing scales is it's the sound. See, the hardest thing to grasp about theory is all these notes are all the modes in one. So if you want to make it sound like G, you go, if I want to make it sound, Santana. But it's still all the notes in G major. So what you have to do is, are you a theory major? What is the problem? What is the complication?
Well, just applying it to guitar. So we'll do things like take all the scales through the cycle of fourths, and sometimes it might take me a minute. And what I'm wanting to do is kind of draw in the space between the time that it takes me to think of something.
Right. Well, because I know this. It wasn't until I almost graduated college that theory and playing meshed into one. You know, because at one point I was so confused. I was writing the jazz, rock, reggae fusion songs. You know, I just didn't know what I couldn't understand it. And then one day it kicked in. But I play modally, and in other words, if I hear G, that doesn't mean I have to start in G. I could start in the A Dorian position, but I can. It's what the tendency of the notes are. For example, one of the most complicated things that people don't understand is that a scale. The reason why there's a scale versus a mode is a scale. It wants to resolve. See, a mode doesn't resolve. Where does it resolve? It's just kind of hanging in there. You know, that's the Phrygian mode, or like the Dorian mode. Yeah, it kind of resolves, but it's not. That's a resolution. A scale resolves. A mode can or cannot. The Ionian mode's the major scale. So how do you mesh these two together? The theory part of it is the only reason music theory even became a discipline is because they tried to figure out why the hell Bach sounded as good as he does. Why do you think it works so well on MIDI? It's a number system. Those are numbers. But as you play here, if I want to go, but what if I want to go? That's the same exact scale. It's just the Phrygian down. But see, it's the same notes as the harmonic minor. So it's how you think of it. Is this G major? Or is it like those are the same notes. I use the little chromatics as G major, but it's the Mixolydian mode. It's how you start and end. It's the way you hear it. It's really weird. It's all are one and one are all, but the tone is so different. How does this come out to this? Or like this? How does that G major? How is that? They are the exact same notes. It's the way it sounds in your ear. That's playing modally. That's how you kind of bridge it. So I hope this helped a little bit. You know, because when you do fourths and all that, that's great. But that doesn't help you to do a solo. You know, what helps you to do a solo is, okay, I've got these chords. Simple. So you ask yourself, is that a scale or a mode? Oh, it's a mode because it's... Or you hear this. Look. So that's a mode too. It's the Mixolydian mode, but it's still all the notes in G major. Or you hear, you know, metal. Now, I don't have a metal sound here. It's because I set it for the bass. So, but the idea is, like, you can play metal using harmonic, any style you want, but it's still kind of modal playing. I mean, Yngwie very much popularized that Spanish Phrygian mode, where it's an A harmonic minor played on E. But and so, but you could also, you know, and it's how you think of it, how the sound, what starting note. I hope that helps. But theory is really hard to explain because it's all like G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. All those notes are in G major, but all those notes are in A Dorian, all those notes are in B Phrygian, C Lydian, D Mixolydian, A Aeolian mode, or the natural minor. It's how you start and end. That it's your tone. It's in music. It's called a tonal center. Like if you hear, your tonal center is A. Here, if the tonal center is still A, but it's not a scale, it's a mode.